It's the Global History Show with Mr. Benjamin. This episode, the Russian Revolution.
Yippee! So excited!
It's Global History Show. In this episode, we will learn how to describe the causes of the Russian Revolution. We will learn how to identify and explain the importance of the Russo-Japanese War and Bloody Sunday. We will learn to analyze the shifts in power in the March and Bolshevik revolutions and to describe the policies put in place with the Bolshevik Revolution and the establishment of the USSR. Imagine you're a peasant farmer in Russia, early 1900s. You're a typical person in Russia, a farm laborer who works on the same land that your parents and grandparents were serfs on. The workday is long, the weather is harsh, you live in poverty, malnourished, landless, in danger of falling victim to famine, with little prospect for a better life. Some peasant laborers you know have left the farms and traveled to the city in search of a better life working in factories. They report that factory work is no better. Workdays are long, factory work is dangerous and insecure. High inflation makes transporting crops to market unprofitable, resulting in food shortages in the cities. The workers are not happy, but hope for improvements. Russia was governed by an absolute monarch, Tsar Nicholas II of the Romanov dynasty. Tsar Nicholas II failed to respond to the people's needs. Tsar Nicholas II resisted demands for reform. He clung to traditional authority despite calls for change. The Tsar also enacted policies against minority communities called Russification.
Russification policies forced ethnic minorities to adopt Russian language and culture while abandoning their own.
The Tsar promoted Russian superiority. The government encouraged and enacted pogroms.
A pogrom was a community-wide act of violence designed to terrorize Jews and drive them out of Russia.
Russification and pogroms. Ethnic hatred most gruesome. Russians assert superiority over minorities and violently abuse them.
The Tsar used his secret police, censorship, propaganda, and control of the Orthodox Church to silence opposition.
The Russo-Japanese War from 1904 to 1905 served as a catalyst for change. Tsar Nicholas II recognized the people's discontent. He saw an opportunity. When conflict arose between Russia and Japan, he took action that encouraged Japan to declare war on Russia. The Tsar hoped that war with Japan would distract from problems at home and rally the Russian people to support their leader in a time of war. A newly modernized Japanese military crushed the Russian forces. The Tsar was blamed for Russia's backwardness and corruption. Imagine yourself at a Russian Orthodox Mass with other unhappy city workers. The date is January 22nd, 1905. You are with thousands at St. Petersburg gathered for a peaceful protest. Father Georgy Gapan is helping you to deliver a plea to Tsar Nicholas II to improve working conditions and make political reform. You hope for a better life and a government that hears your needs as part of the working class. The priests lead you to deliver the petition to the Tsar's winter palace. Shots ring out. The Tsar's troops are opening fire on you. Bodies are dropping in all directions as you run for your life. This event, known as Bloody Sunday, ignited widespread outrage and led to strikes and uprisings across Russia. This 1905 revolt marked a turning point in the struggle against autocracy.
Bloody Sunday, the people's faith is destroyed. The Tsar killed Russians, they are more than annoyed.
The Tsar is forced to meet with opposition leaders. The Tsar gives in to demands and forms the Duma.
The Duma is an elected body of representatives, a democratic institution.
People believe that the government will finally work to meet their needs, and protests and strikes are ended. With the challenge to the Tsar's rule dissipated, the Tsar Nicholas II disbands the Duma. But then things got worse for the Russians. Tsar Nicholas II plunged Russia into World War I. Russia's military faced supply shortages, starvation, inferior military technology, inept and corrupt generals, all
resulting in tremendous losses on the battlefield. The Tsar traveled to the front to personally take command. This was a mistake. The losses were now attributed to Tsar Nicholas II himself. Russia's in trouble. World War I. World War I? What is it? It's a military conflict between the Central Powers and the Allies, but that's not important right now. Russian troops have tremendous casualties and military losses. Soldiers deserted en masse. In 1917, a new wave of riots ensued. Rioters demanded peace, food, and reform. The Tsar's troops were ordered to end the riots. The soldiers refused to fire on the rioters and join the protests. Tsar Nicholas II abdicated and was arrested. The Duma, Russia's body of elected representatives, became the provisional government.
World War I losses, soldiers vote with their feet. Romanov's no longer the bosses, the Tsar's knocked off his seat.
The Duma's leader, Alexander Kerensky, recognized Russia's problems, but did not have any solutions. Russia's military losses continued. Vladimir Lenin, a Marxist communist revolutionary who had been exiled from Russia by the Tsar, returned. Lenin promised peace, land, and bread. Peace for the soldiers, land for the peasant farmers, bread for the city workers. In opposition to the Duma, Lenin called for all power to the Soviets. The Soviets were local workers' councils and a sort of parallel government.
Peace, bread, land. Peace, bread, land. See how they're done. See how they're done. Soldiers like guns, so they lost their life. Farmers wanted land to end poverty strife. City workers needed food to feed their wife. Need peace, bread, land.
Lenin was the most recognized leader of the Russian Revolution. Why, aren't you Vladimir Lenin, Russian communist leader of the Bolshevik Party? Nasco-T.
Amidst unrest, the Bolsheviks seized power in October 1917. Our victory marked the beginning of a new era in Russia.
Why did Vladimir Lenin take over with the Bolshevik Revolution? Why? Because he thought the previous government was as Duma as the Tsarist government. He wasn't going to take any Bolshevik from the Duma. Lenin negotiated with German representatives to remove Russia from World War I by signing the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Not everyone in Russia was on board with Lenin and the Bolsheviks ruling. A civil war is sparked between the Red Army, composed of the Bolsheviks, and the White Army, a coalition of all anti-Bolshevik forces. V.I. Lenin's Bolsheviks emerged victorious, cementing control of the country. Lenin began transforming Russia, guided by the ideas of Karl Marx. Lenin ordered the execution of the Tsar and his family. Lenin had the Cheka, his secret police, execute all opposition, labeling them counter-revolutionaries. Lenin ruled as a military dictator, renaming the Russian Empire the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, the USSR, or Soviet Union. Lenin nationalized all farms and industries. Government-operated farms and factories were inefficient and production faltered.
Nationalize means to transfer private property, like farms and factories, to government ownership and control.
To address the starvation and economic disaster, Lenin introduced the New Economic Policy, NEP, in 1921, transitioning Russia from total state control to a mixed economy, allowing businesses and farms to profit from increased production. This shift revitalized agriculture and stabilized post-revolution Russia. Lenin died in 1922. Lenin's new economic policy included capitalist profit motives. Lenin really got low marks on the NEP.
New economic policy. Vladimir Lenin, have you any plan? Yes, communist government decides and commands. Nationalize ownership in governmental hands. Production failure and famine. Time to reassess. New economic policy profit motive brings success.
Joseph Stalin gains control and returns Russia to communist policies. Wait, because I support a transition of power through democracy is no reason for a Russian autocrat to do this.